The 90s kids always claim they had the best childhood, but honestly, it's a solid argument that Gen Z kids had it better. If you were born in the 2000s, you didn't just live through a decade. You survived an era of pure chaos and magic. Today, we're unlocking 12 unforgettable memories that made our childhood a blast. Stick around till the end because I'm betting at least one of these things will unlock a core memory you didn't know were missing. Limewire.
The final touch? Video production magic, making it look like Limewire was alive.
The only way you wouldn't know Limewire is if you're a late Zoomer. For us early Zoomers, Limewire wasn't just a program. It was a lifestyle choice, and a dangerous one. You'd spend hours hunting for that one song you heard on the radio, click download, and pray it was actually the right track. But half the time, you'd get into Club, turning into Soulja Boy halfway through, or worse, your computer catches more viruses than a middle school flu season. The suspense was real. Watching that little green bar crawl to 100% while pop-ups exploded on your screen like a digital fireworks show. And somehow, we thought we were tech geniuses for figuring it out. Every burned CD felt like a masterpiece you risked it all for, even if your family computer sounded like a mechanical engine about to break down. Parents called it illegal. We called it sharing music. Either way, if you survived the Limewire era with your hard drive intact, you deserve a medal. Early iPod and iTunes drama.
We know how to make really cool small devices.
Back in the early 2000s, owning an iPod wasn't just cool. It was like holding the future in your hand. That smooth click wheel, the metallic shine, the way it slid into your pocket like it belonged there. It made you feel special, like the coolest kid on the block. But behind all that sleek design was chaos. Pure chaos. One wrong click in iTunes and poof, your entire music library was gone. Weeks of Limewire downloads gone in the blink of an eye. The dreaded do not disconnect screen turned syncing into a high-stakes operation, as if your iPod would self-destruct if you touched the cable too soon. And don't forget those error messages that seemed to pop up just to test your patience. Yet somehow, we loved it. Scrolling through that tiny black and white screen, feeling like we were curating the perfect soundtrack to our lives. Sure, we lived in fear of losing it all, but when those earbuds were in, we were untouchable. Flip phones.
Hi.
And speaking of gadgets we couldn't live without, nothing, and I mean nothing made you feel cooler than snapping a flip phone shut. The early 2000s turned the flip into an art form. Whether it was the sleek Motorola Razr that everyone seemed to have, or those chunky antenna phones you could practically use as a weapon, these little clamshells were our lifelines. Texting wasn't easy. T9 meant you had to tap the same button 3 times just to get a single letter, but somehow we mastered it. You could carry on a full conversation in class without even looking at the screen. And the real flex? Flipping it open with one hand when you got a call, and snapping it shut after delivering your most dramatic line. Sure, iPods held our music, but flip phones held our entire social lives. They weren't just phones to us, they were accessories, status symbols, and a little piece of 2000s attitude you could fit in your pocket. MySpace Top 8 Chaos. Of course, once you had your flip phone blowing up with text, you had to make it official on MySpace. And back then, nothing defined your social standing more than your top 8. This wasn't just a list, it was your public friendship resume, especially if you're a girl with plenty of fancy friends. Changing your top 8 was basically starting a Cold War. Move someone down a spot, expect a passive-aggressive AIM message within the hour. Add a new friend to the chat, suddenly you've got drama in the group chat. Oh, the profiles. Glitter GIFs that took 5 minutes to load, autoplay songs that blared as soon as someone clicked your page, and those endless HTML tweaks to make it perfect. We weren't web designers, but we might as well have been. You know, it's funny. Our flip phones kept the conversations going, but MySpace? That's where the alliances were forged and broken. The early internet was messy, dramatic, and unforgettable, and we loved every minute of it. Nintendo Wii. While a lot of Zoomer girls spent considerably more time on MySpace than the boys, it's mainly because the boys had plenty of other things to do to have fun. One of them is the old-fashioned Nintendo Wii showdown in someone's living room. If you never played Mario Galaxy and you are a Gen Z, what were you doing all those years? The day the Wii dropped, the 2000s gaming scene changed forever. Suddenly, you weren't just pressing buttons, you were swinging, serving, and bowling like your reputation depended on it. Creating your Mii was an event in itself. Carefully choosing the hairstyle, tweaking the eyes until it kinda looked like you, and then immediately giving your friends the most ridiculous avatars possible. And once Wii Sports fired up, game on. Bowling nights got competitive, tennis matches turned into full-on cardio, and at least one person smacked a lamp with the Wiimote because they forgot to wear their wrist strap. And the best part? Even your parents played. It didn't matter if you were top 8 famous on MySpace. Dominating a Wii Sports match earned you instant legend status. And to the boys, that mattered more. Redbox.
It is the end of an era for the once loved Redbox. 24,000 DVD.
And if you weren't at home battling it out on the Wii, there's a good chance you were standing in front of a glowing Redbox machine in a parking lot at 8 p.m. There was something oddly exciting about scrolling through those rows of DVD covers, tapping the touchscreen like you were picking the night's main event. It wasn't just about renting the movie itself. It was the whole ritual. Piling into the car with friends or family, arguing over which title to get, and finally walking away with that bright red case in hand like you'd just secured treasure. Of course, the real gamble came later, when you forgot to return it on time and ended up paying more in late fees than if you'd just bought the DVD outright. But in that moment, Redbox was peak 2000s convenience. No streaming, no algorithms, just you, a glowing screen, and a promise of movie night magic. Old Disney Channel shows. But movie night wasn't the only screen time that defined our childhood, because if you grew up in the 2000s, the Disney Channel was basically your second home. The moment that iconic wand intro flashed across the screen, you knew you were in for something special. Lizzie McGuire made middle school drama feel like a cinematic event. You just couldn't get enough. That's So Raven had us crying with laughter and maybe trying our own visions. And Kim Possible turned Call Me, Beat Me into a lifestyle. These shows weren't just entertainment for us. They were our language. We quoted them at school, we tried the dance moves in our bedrooms, and we counted down the minutes until the next new episode. And let's be honest, some of us still hum those theme songs without even realizing it. For us, Disney Channel was more than a TV network. It was a world we lived in, one episode at a time. Pimp My Ride.
So you want to be a player, but your wheels ain't flying.
Meanwhile, over on MTV, things were a little less wholesome. If Disney Channel was our comfort zone, Pimp My Ride was pure jaw-dropping spectacle. While the show wasn't everyone's cup of tea, many of us had our behinds glued to the chair every single episode. The way those cars transform was just too mind-blowing to miss. Exhibit would roll in, take one look at your beat-up ride, and somehow decide you needed a fish tank in the trunk or a popcorn machine in the back seat. The paint jobs were blinding. The rims were bigger than your dreams, and the sound systems could probably be heard 3 streets over. Even if you didn't care about cars, you watched, because in the 2000s, these makeovers were events in itself. And in certain parts of the US, tricked out rides like this weren't just TV fantasy, they were weekend reality. If you grew up on the West Coast, you could probably relate to this more than anyone else. Those modded Impalas were classic. It didn't matter if the mods made sense, what mattered was that they made a statement. And honestly, we still kinda wish our first cars looked like that. Razor scooters. Of course, Pimp My Ride was just a pipe dream for many of us back in the day.
With epic sparking action! The all-new Spark Ultra scooter from Razor.
The real rides we all wanted didn't have an engine. We called them Razor scooters. For early Gen Zs and late Zoomers, this was the ultimate street status symbol. The Razor scooter was sleek, foldable, and fast enough to make parents nervous. It was freedom on 2 tiny wheels. Every kid swore they had mastered the art of tricks, whether it was hopping curbs, grinding a ledge, or attempting a tail whip that almost always ended in disaster. And then there was the moment every scooter rider remembers, that brutal ankle smack when the spinning metal deck caught you off guard. Instant pain, instant tears, instant street cred. The clink of the handlebars locking into place, the satisfying snap when you folded it up to carry inside, it all felt like part of a secret club. Razor scooters didn't just get us from point A to point B, they gave us the rush of speed, the thrill of competition, and the kind of scraped knees that made summers unforgettable. The cha-cha slide. And when the scooters got parked and the sun went down, there was always one song that could pull every 2000s kid and every reluctant adult onto the dance floor. The cha-cha slide. It didn't matter if it was a school dance in a sweaty gym, a birthday party in someone's basement, or a wedding reception where you barely knew anyone. Once that beat kicked in and you heard, "Everybody clap your hands," you clapped. It was the great equalizer. Shy kids, cool kids, even teachers, everyone slid to the left, slid to the right, and cha-cha'd real smooth. And let's be honest, there was always that one person who took reverse as an opportunity to show off moves nobody asked for. The Cha-Cha Slide was way more than a song. It was a blueprint for how to have a good time. And if you didn't leave the floor a little sweaty and out of breath, you weren't doing it right. Hanging at the mall. After all that dancing, there was only one place to regroup, refuel, and see who else was out: the mall. You probably won't believe this, especially if you grew up in the 2010s, but back in the 2000s, the mall wasn't just for shopping. It was the ultimate social hub. You'd grab a pretzel from Auntie Anne's, wander past the same store 3 times, and somehow end up in a photo booth cramming in with 5 friends. Hot Topic bags dangled from your wrist, sometimes with actual purchases inside, sometimes just for the aesthetic. Groups of teens circled the food court like it was a catwalk, eyeing the arcade or plotting their next store raid. You might spend hours there and leave with nothing but a soda and a handful of free lotion samples from Bath & Body Works, but that didn't matter. The mall wasn't about buying stuff. It was about being there. It was where friendships formed, crushes started, and entire afternoons vanished without you even noticing. Y2K. And before all these 2000s memories really took off, there was the moment that kicked off the decade with pure electric anticipation. Y2K. For months, everyone swore the world's computers were going to glitch out at the crossover night from 1999 to 2000. News anchors talked about power grids failing, banks collapsing, and even planes falling from the sky. As kids, we didn't fully understand it, but we felt the tension. We stayed up late with our families, glued to the countdown, watching that digital clock creep toward 12 a.m. Some of us half expected the lights to flicker or the TV to cut out. And then nothing happened. The ball dropped, the fireworks went off, and the world kept turning. The grown-ups laughed it off, but for us, that night became one of those strange, unforgettable childhood moments, equal parts anticlimax and relief. Y2K didn't break the world, but it did give the 2000s one of its most legendary you-had-to-be-there stories. And there you have it. The 2000s gave us gadgets that felt like magic, trends that defined our friendships, and moments that can still make us laugh or cringe years later. From Limewire downloads that risked your whole computer to flip phone drama, MySpace politics, and Saturday nights at the mall, it wasn't just a decade. It was an entire vibe. And here's the thing. Every one of us lived it a little differently. Maybe your 2000s were all about Wii Sports battles, or maybe you were the king of the Cha-Cha Slide. Either way, those memories are ours forever. So tell me, which of these hit you hardest? And what did we miss? Drop it in the comments because the best part of nostalgia is sharing it. And if this video made you giggle just a little, there's plenty more where that came from. Welcome to the Cozy Rewind, your new favorite nostalgia corner.